Hello, Kai. How are you?
Hi, good morning, good evening. I'm very well. How are you?
Okay, you are most welcome. First of all, give us a brief about yourself.
So I'm British. I'm from the UK. I currently live in Australia, and I'm a high school teacher. I teach senior chemistry and senior maths.
Okay, do you have experience with IELTS?
I do. When I moved to Australia, I had to do the IELTS exam, and I scored 9 in each single band. So, um, yeah, and it wasn't because I was a native. It's just because I did everything that IELTS required. Which hopefully I can help some of your students.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Okay. Yeah, I think you are the role model we're all trying to get to reach. Okay, the first question. Okay. The first question is, which criterion from the four descriptors of IELTS carries more weight?
I think sort of the grammar and the punctuation itself, because it comes into absolutely everything. So if you know grammar, then you can write complex sentences, you can sort of facilitate your writing a little bit better. So to get those key grammar skills allows you not only just to write and gain marks in that sort of section, but it also allows you to construct your writing a little bit better. Punctuation is also very, very important. Like, I'm talking now with punctuation. You write with punctuation, but you also talk with punctuation. So those two key skills not only get you good marks in that, spelling, punctuation, and grammar section, but it also allows you to flow, relatively well and write relatively well as well. So those two key skills are the most important components of IELTS and English language.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean by English language? Yeah.
Well, it's just sort of the way that sort of the English language is communicated. It's quite different to some other languages in terms of we don't have necessarily the male and the female sort of verses. It's more about how we how we pause in our language and how we emphasize certain words in order to get our point across, and that's what this IELTS is looking for in terms of speaking. But in terms of writing, it's sort of using that complex sentence structure in order to get your point across. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's what I think English language is.
The next question. How to generate robust and strong ideas for the question, especially on task 2?
So strong ideas
Yeah.
is sort of not going in there straight away. So what I always do, even as a native English speaker, I always write down a few key words first, because I'm actually doing a doctorate in neuroanatomy, so I know about all how the brain works in terms of linguistics. And what we tend to do is, if you write down a few key words first, take about 30 seconds to step back, then you start to develop your ideas based on these key words. So don't go in there and start writing really, really quickly, because what happens is we sort of get caught up in the moment and we just want to get it down and get it over with. But with the IELTS, it's quality, not quantity. So don't think, oh, I've just got to get this done really, really quickly and it'll all be fine. If you just take a step back, write some keywords, and then you can start to develop your ideas. Because once we've got 3 or 4 keywords down, our brains start to develop ideas based on these keywords. So it's all about taking your time and sort of analyzing what actually needs to be done, but don't make it too complicated either. It's sort of quality over quantity. We need it to be correct rather than writing loads of information which isn't really relevant. So it is all about those key words, and then sort of emphasizing on those keywords. That's really, really important.
Okay, good. The next question is, How do our thinking and our minds need, again, do our thinking and our minds need training to grow and develop to be able to tackle the questions properly?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I
I
think
think
so.
this is your
Yeah.
area of expertise.
Yes.
So,
Yes. You know, the brain needs, the brain needs to, to constantly re-go over things in order to, understand how these, how these questions need to be answered. I think we need a range of knowledge as well, because with the IELTS, it's not just, one question that comes up. There's a range of questions that quite come up. So we need not to train our brains, but we need to have an in-depth, knowledge in loads of different things. But just think of the question in your native language, write down those keywords in your native language, and then, and then you can start to develop what you want, what you want to say. But you do need a range of knowledge on the different tasks in order to understand questions and be able to answer them proficiently and things like that. So yeah, keep practicing. That's the most important thing.
okay, great. Next question. If a student can't generate strong ideas, can they read articles about the topic before writing?
If a student can they read articles before
I mean,
writing?
this is during the practice, not in the exam, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's. I don't think that's. Um, I think if you come up when you're practicing, you come up against a question and you don't really know how to answer it. I think the most important thing is to have a go in that practice session without going to have to read the background information. Because if you get into that exam and you don't know that topic or don't know how to answer that topic, then you're not going to be able to go and research it before. So with the IELTS, you don't need to know the topic in depth. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for how you construct, a written argument or an essay or something like that. So
No. What I mean,
it's
Kai, is like we link this point to the previous point. Like you said, we need in-depth knowledge or a wide range of knowledge to be able to generate
yeah.
ideas. So is reading useful or beneficial some way?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I
Good.
think the best thing that you can actually do is because it's what I got taught when I was a pupil was to read the news. Is to read the news every day. Just go on to BBC News, which is the the British Broadcasting News, and then just read that for 5 minutes a day. Because not only you'll gain knowledge, but you'll also gain how they construct an argument, because usually it is an argument. It's never this is it. It's always, well, this is one side, this is the other side, this is what I think. So
Okay.
it is important to read, but read the news is probably one of the most important things, because you'll gain a range of knowledge just by reading 5-10 minutes.
Okay. Next question. Do students need practice to improve their writing skill? How much practice?
Yes,
How much? How long?
massively. I mean, I even practice my writing skills now. Like whenever I go to write a letter to parents or to a colleague, I practice now. You need to be practicing all the time, or all the time, at least once a day for maybe an hour or so when you're doing the IELTS. But that skill is going to develop with time as well. So I think what we tell our students now in school is use the app Grammarly. So just write yourself some some text on Grammarly to see if you're getting those complex structures, to see if you're getting the grammar correctly, to see if you're using correct phrases. So it's what we say, it's what I tell all my pupils is practice makes perfect, and it does. The more
Yeah.
you can practice, the better you'll do. And
Okay.
that's just the key.
Okay. The next question is, does the students' knowledge of the English culture and history affect their ability to write and respond to the questions?
No, no. We came across this before, and you don't need to know English culture or history in order to write a good a good writing section of the IELTS. That's not required. I mean, it helps for you to know a little bit about how the English the English culture is, but in terms of proper history or culture, I just don't think it's needed at all. I think you can relate British culture to any culture around the world. England is so diverse, it doesn't really matter anymore. So no, we had this argument before when I was doing IELTS, and because I lived out of England a long time now, and the teacher told me that it did not matter as long as you can, you had knowledge about writing and a range of topics. Culture and history just didn't come into it, so don't worry about knowing what British
the
people
history of
do and things
whole
like
England.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not required.
Okay, the next question: does the format of IELTS writing need special training? What I mean is, like the format, for example, the introduction and the conclusion, the body paragraphs, this kind of writing, it's different from the usual types of writing. So does it need special training?
Yeah, it does. It does, yeah. So I think when you're doing anything like this, you can never have one argument ever. And even when we're doing persuasive writing, as we call it, we can never have one argument. So when we are doing these IELTS tasks, never go in and go, I agree with this side. Even if you do agree with that side, it's more about your introduction. So when you introduce the task, sort of say what the task is. That's what we always do in writing. After that, you sort of agree or agree with topic one, or agree with statement one, because it's usually a comparison. So agree with statement one. Always start with the one that you're going to agree with. Then give reasons of why you agree with it. Then next paragraph, go into sort of statement two. Do you agree with it? Do you not? You could agree with it. It's absolutely fine. You can agree with it. Always don't start a paragraph sentence with because. Just go into it, mention what the statement is, agree or disagree with it, give your reasons why, and then you can start to draw down a conclusion, which one you agree with and why you agree with that. So there is a special technique that we have to use. So it's introducing both topics, saying whether you agree with it or not, giving some real life examples or some examples. When I did IELTS, it was about, do gap years help with employment? And I couldn't just say no or yes. It was yes, it helps with employment because of world life experience, getting to know different cultures, or the fact that no, it doesn't, because you've taken that year out of professional employment and it's hard to get back into that mindset, and then conclude it. So sort of it takes that sort of structure in order to get a good mark, and it's what you have to do in the professional world anyway, so especially in Britain.
Okay, the next question. Okay, what kind of ideas should be in a paragraph, like how to move from one sentence to another?
That's a difficult one when you're when you're thinking out loud, but when to move one sentence to another, it's the paragraphs have to be, the most important one is the paragraphs have to be two different talking about two different things. So don't ever start a paragraph when you're talking about the same thing. So if you're talking all about topic one, that all needs to be in one paragraph. Moving from one sentence to another, speak it out loud, and you should know when you have a long pause in your talking, how you're going to start the next sentence. So never start your sentences with words like because or therefore or subsequently or things like that. You should know by speaking where the end of that sentence is.
Something logical.
And when we go from one sentence to another, it's usually you're ending a statement. You're ending that statement and you're just going on to another statement within the same topic. So
okay.
That's,
Okay. Great. The next question.
it's hard to think.
Yeah. I think now we are in your area of specialty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a very like writing a specific question. What are the types of topic sentences? Like the first
Topic
sentence.
sentences.
Yeah, we killed the first sentence in each paragraph.
Well, your introduction, the topic sentence is going to be what you are going to write about. Always what you're going to write about. So if you're reading it as a reader, then you're going to need to know what this is going to be about before you even start it, because then it just allows you to, gauge interest, or just, allows you to see if you are going to read on or not. So that's the most important thing. Each paragraph needs to sort of outline what sort of what is that little bit going to be about. So if you're then going on to talking about the first topic or the first argument, to sort of say, you need to say quickly what you're going to be doing. I don't know, the gap year one I had, for example, my first sentence of that would be that employment prospects would increase if an individual does a gap year there. So you're just introducing it really, really quickly. So it just allows,
like you mentioned, you
flows.
mentioned the main ideas for your paragraph.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just starting. You have to start a paragraph. The first sentence has to be what you're going to be describing.
Okay.
So,
good.
Yeah, I make it blunt. Don't make it too long.
Yeah, you mean short, to the point, incisive.
Short to the point. Short to the point,
okay.
Incisive. The first sentence has to be blunt. It cannot be too long. So that's what we always get learned in English language. Can't be too long.
The next question. Do students need to understand the questions properly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It is, like I said, it is quality over quantity. So one thing we have to train our brains to do is, if we read a question 90% of the time, even I do it now as a teacher, 90% of the time, it's very easy just to rush in and go for it. But you're not allowing yourself time to understand what is actually required. So again, read the question, either highlight or just write down the key words in that question. And then you can start to unravel an answer to that question. So anything I can tell any student, even a student in math or science, is never just delve into the question. Read it, write some keywords down, read it again, and then sort of start to construct an answer, because rushing into it is not going to help at all, and it's just gonna make you fail, really.
Okay, we hope not. Okay.
Hope not. Hope not. But I think just by read, by taking 30 seconds out, you will, your students will see, the how the answers develop just by looking at those keywords. So it's a really important skill to have.
Yeah, good. Okay, the next question. What is the context of a question?
What is the what, sorry?
What is the context of the question, and how does it affect our selection of ideas and lexis?
Oh, that's a difficult one. It's I don't know. As a native speaker, it's different for me to to think about this. But
like the idea for us, like students write, and then we tell them, okay, this word doesn't suit the context. This word doesn't fit here. However, it has the meaning, but it doesn't fit here. You get my point?
I get your point. I get the question. I think it just comes with practice. It comes with practice. Again, reading news articles or using a program such as Grammarly is going to help with that. But whenever we write something, if you read it back to yourself and it doesn't make sense when you're reading it or speaking it, then it doesn't make sense on paper. It's just practice with that one. It's you know, it's
Yeah.
properly just
Until we
practice.
can
But
grasp the meaning or the sense of the language.
yeah, absolutely. But I think one thing that someone told me who's an IELTS sort of teacher always said that if you know, if you think the word is too complicated, then don't use it, because putting a complicated word in there which you think may or may not work is just, if it doesn't work, obviously it's gonna lower your marks.
Mhm.
You know, we say it's quality over quantity, but we want it to be correct as well. So just don't make it too difficult. If you think, oh, this word might not work here, don't put it in, just put something else in. You know, I think that's even what I do now. You know, I look at some of my writing difference, I think, oh, that doesn't make sense, I need to take that out and put
Oh, yeah.
something else in. So you know, it happens to everyone.
Sure. That comes with a lot of practice. The next question,
Yeah,
why do students usually deviate from the question's topic?
because they think that quantity is important, because they think that, oh, I need to write loads of things in order to fill that 250 word count, for example. And it is important to stick to the word counts, but you know, pupils will they'll just want to write loads just to, you know, just to put as much information as they can. But you know, that's where your mark starts to decrease. So again, it's using those keywords, because if you take some time, have a look at those keywords and stick to a plan, stick to those keywords, then you know, you're not going to deviate. But it is, and my pupils do it all the time now, it is the fact that they just want to write loads.
Yeah.
But you know, never deviate away from the task, because if you had, you know, 50 words short of the word count, that's going to be better for you or more beneficial to you than if you had the word count but went off on a massive tangent and it didn't make any sense, because you get marks for context. You know, I mean, and it's important.
Yeah. Okay. The last question for today, Kai. How it's not an easy question, okay?
Oh, okay.
How to build a logical argument?
How to build a logical argument.
Yeah.
A logical argument. It needs to be concise and to the point. So when we think of logical arguments, we don't think of sort of long-ended sentences, and we don't think of you know, going off and deviating away. When you're looking at a logical argument, it needs to be properly to the point, but you definitely need to have look at both sides of the argument as well. So you need to make a statement, but whenever you're making a statement, it always needs to be backed up with some sort of evidence or some sort of logical response to that. So we can't just say something like, I was reading an IELTS one where they were talking about payday loans. So that's something in the UK where people borrow money and they pay it off when they get paid, but at a high interest. And I was reading an IELTS question, and it was, you know, payday loans are affecting, are putting people into bankruptcy. So you can't just say, yes, this is happening. That's not a logical argument. A logical argument, yes, this is happening because of this reason, and you know, these are the repercussions of it. So that's a logical argument. But then you also have to give the other side of it as well. Well, you know, people have got their own, people need to control themselves better, you know, for these reasons, and sort of constructing an argument that's logical. So whenever you are writing something like that, don't just agree with one of them and then just leave it at that. It's agreeing or disagreeing, but give examples as to why. So that's backing your logical statement up, and that's, you know, that's the what's important. And then concluding it afterwards. When you're concluding something, you know, you sort of say which statement you're agreeing with, or which logical statement that you're agreeing with, and then just round it off as to say a reason why, but not the reasons why you put in you know, your other argument. Just round it off with a whole statement, basically.
Summarize
so that's
it.
what a lot.
Yeah.
Summarize it. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's the word. That's
Yeah.
that's a logical. That's a logical
Okay.
statement. So
Yeah. Okay. It has been great to have you here today. Thank you. I will
no
see you
problem.
again next time, speaking more about psychology and writing. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Thank you very much.
Okay. Have a good day. Thank you.
You
Enjoy
too.
your day.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. You
Thank you.
too. Bye bye.